New figures from the Department of Education show that Clare is falling behind the national average when it comes to Irish medium education. Fewer than 5% of students in the county attend a Gaelscoil, compared to 6.5% nationwide, and Clare has just 4 Gaelscoileanna, well below the typical number in other counties. While at the same time, there are some more encouraging signs at early years level, with higher exposure to Irish and childcare settings locally than across the country as a whole. So what's behind these mixed trends, and what needs to happen to grow the Irish language in Clare? For more on this, I'm joined in studio now by Leah Thailtigh, the Language Planning Officer with Clár Gaeilge and Irish and Cultural Officer with Clare GAA. And also with us is MacDara Conaola, the native Irish speaker from Oírr in the Aran Island Gaeltacht, and Irish language columnist as well. A very good morning to both of you. Thanks for coming in. Leah, do these numbers reflect what you're seeing on the ground? Are they anyway surprising?
So I think what's important to say at the outset is Clare definitely doesn't have a lack of interest in the Irish language, far from it. I mean, we have 47%, according to the latest census, who say they speak Irish to some level anyway. But I think this figure, I mean, it had to come around sometime. We've been saying it for years and years. The simple solution to this is an independent Gaeltacht. There's a clear pathway. There's an Oírr, there's Gaelscoils, but there's no final project in an independent Gaeltacht. So I think that's what's turning a lot of people off it, because there's not that continuation through secondary school. So I think it's such a simple solution for the department. They're saying they won't give it if we don't get X figures, but X figures won't come if we don't get independence.
So a chicken and egg situation, basically.
That's it, exactly. An uphill battle constantly with the department.
MacDara, do you agree with Leah's assessment?
Yeah, I do. Just about the census, I would ask people for the next census to be a little bit more truthful, because if there was 47% people who could speak Irish, then you would hear them speak, and I could speak to them at my normal speed and they would understand me. So next time, go down maybe one level, unless you do speak Irish, and that you can and because
so people are overhyping their yes, grasp of our native language.
That's right. And you see, the government will have to do something about it then if it goes down, because where I'm from, the Gaeltacht, they don't even have a level for native Irish. The highest it goes is fluent, but as you know, there's a difference between native and fluent. Yeah. So there's little things like that if they saw how little it is that of native speakers, they would have to do something about it. So the same with the Irish language outside the Gaeltacht. But I would suggest as well, every school, I visit a lot of schools, Gaelscoils and Gaelscoils, and but there's always at least 3/4 of the teachers that could get a job in a Gaelscoil. Their Irish is so good. So I say, why not be a kind of a pseudo Gaelscoil, or strive to be almost like a Gaelscoil, because there's so many great Irish speakers there, and some schools, I've seen schools in Galway that aren't Gaelscoils, but I've gone in and I thought I was in a Gaelscoil, because everything is done through Irish. All their books are in Irish. Everything, they're just not in name a Gaelscoil. So it can be done, or it can be kind of maybe a grade lower, but using
close to a Gaelscoil.
Yeah. So there's a lot that can be done, and it says there's only 4 Gaelscoils in Clare, but there's some other counties that there's only 1, so you have to take out the big picture.
The national average is 9 or 10 per county.
Yeah,
I take
Dublin
your point.
Has loads, Limerick and Galway and Cork have loads. So 4 isn't too bad. Now, you see, there should be many, many more. And the thing about the Gaelscoils here, I've visited them many times, is the quality of Irish is very good. So there is an argument, a lot of people in the Irish-speaking community, they say, well, would it be better to have less Gaelscoils but better quality Irish, or more but maybe a lower quality of Irish? So, there's a lot of that's another debate as well. So the quality here is very good.
What's your take on that latter point, Leah? Would you prefer more schools with maybe slightly lower level of Irish, but at least you're spreading the language and that's a base from which people can improve, or less of them but a higher standard?
Well, I'm always for spreading the graph for the Tonga and welcoming all levels, but I do take MacDara's point on board that the quality has to be there as well. There's no prioritising quantity if the quality isn't there, first of all. But I know Clár, Morrissey, Mary I, they've such a high level of Irish coming out in all those teaching colleges, so hopefully we'll get a few more anyway.
What about the point MacDara was making about schools where the teachers could work in Gaelscoils because they've a brilliant, their grasp of Irish is brilliant, but I suppose maybe not translating as much to the students then when we see, obviously there could be more of a spread of Irish. What's the disconnect that's there? Does that go back to, I guess, the way it's taught, which is an age-old argument at this stage?
I have a T-shirt that says no, I don't.
I do think it goes back to the way it's taught, but there are some schools in County Clare operating that way. I know Sean O'Neill in Connolly, he's absolutely fantastic and he tries to do everything os Gaeilge with them. He actually just competed in the All-Ireland Drama Festival there in Mullingar on Friday, so he really tries to bring the Irish language in a fun way, and I think other schools are kind of adapting it. Helen McMahon in Ballyea is absolutely fantastic as well, and I think that trend is kind of catching on, like that you can do maths through Irish, that you can do drama through Irish, and it doesn't have to just be the Irish language and strict grammar and all these rules, that you can actually have fun with the language.
I mean, MacDara, but there's more children in this county exposed to Irish in childcare settings than the national average, as I mentioned at the outset. I mean, that's you can say, well, how do we reconcile that with lower Gaelscoil attendance? But that seems like a fantastic base starting point.
Oh, it is.
From which to, if there's improvements made, obviously, later on in the story.
That's right. Well, it's all connected, you see. And they do, it's great with the schools you mentioned there. And there are, at the moment, there's still far and few between, but if there was more of a connect, like you said, between the niner, like what's the point of them having Irish and then they go into school and they lose it all.
Yeah.
And kids, they learn it very quick, but they also lose it very quickly. So if there was... They're always there's a thing that they're always afraid of. The teachers are afraid of the parent committee, or like, if they're doing Irish then they'll lose their English. But I grew up bilingually and I think you can understand me in English.
So yeah, we're just about making it.
So you can have as many languages, you can have 3 or 4 languages and it won't bother. If anything, it's better for the mind, and it helps you to learn other stuff like the Gaelscoil. The Gaeltacht always are top of the list, and most Gaeltacht in Ireland are on top.
Yeah, that argument from parents or parents groups saying, they might lose English. I mean, look at all of our European counterparts who English is their second language. They're well able to speak it. Yeah. They learn it in school, but they don't lose their grasp of their native language, be it German or French or wherever.
No.
Danish.
And you can have fun with both. I always say you don't have to be anti-English to be pro-Irish. You can mix. If you can't think of a word in one, use word from the other one. And it's so much fun, And when you learn a new language, you're stepping into another world. So you don't have to have mushrooms or anything. You can just learn another language and you're in another world.
So, Leah, is there more needed from the Department of Education then? Is there more support needed to grow Irish medium provision in counties like Clare?
Definitely. I mean, I do think these figures will rise with the development in Gaelscoil, Donaghcarua and Shannon, so they're getting a new building, so I do expect the numbers to grow there. But we'll take a local example in Gaelscoil, Gaeilge, so they were left out of the 105 schools named for development, even after promised from the department that they would get their extension, and they have one of the highest intake of junior infants in the county, because Donal O'Hanifin doesn't want to turn away someone who wants Irish medium education. But it's just so hard to cater for the demand when the Shomery Wrong aren't there. I mean, there's only so much you can take and so much divide and Shomer as you can do. So I think he's 76 coming in junior infants in September 2026, which is the highest in the county. So there definitely needs to be more done. I think the solution to all the problems, I'll say it again, is an independent Gaeltacht. I mean, they're trying their best with the resources they have there. They're absolutely fantastic, James O'Shaughnessy, but they can't recruit specifically for the Gaeltacht. It's for the Ennis Community College under that patronage. So I think the continuation is what worries parents the most, that you'd be going to a Gaelscoil, but then you're not going to a full Gaeltacht at second level.
They'd feel like, what was the point of those few years?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, when I was in the Gaeltacht and my time, people were promised a lovely new building, and that was the kind of, I suppose, what was drawing people to the Gaeltacht, that kind of hope for independence when the new building came. But I mean, that came and it was given to the community college, and now, I mean, I think I did one subject through Irish for the Leaving Cert, it's not a proper Gaeltacht, and no fault of their own. They're operating with the means they have, and they're restricted by the department.
What do you make of that, MacDara? I mean, frustrating, I guess, that there's
exactly
more support from the department is needed, but even more so when, as Leah outlines, like using Clare as an example and the Gaelscoil, there's a demand. If that could, surely the department are made aware of that. It'd be one thing if they were saying, well, we can't give more support because clearly there isn't enough desire or wish for or demand for children or people learning Irish, but there is.
Are a certain breed. They're like ducks. Anything like that off like a duck's back. But in saying that, anything that's ever been achieved by communities or anything has been done almost before the government has allowed it or anything like that. You have to force them into a situation. Think of right on the Gaeltacht, the Thailtigh. Most Gaelscoils in Ireland started that just parents said, we're doing it. You can do what you like. We're going to do it. So
it was only yesterday and also last week where we mentioned that in this country, in the government in particular, they tend to be reactive rather than proactive.
That's
and
right.
Here it is again.
Oh, there you go. Yes. And so you have to push them a little, and if it suits their, whatever criteria or something, they'll go along with it. But sometimes you do have to really push. So the Gaelcoileanna, I've been there. I've done a lot of work with them over the years, and it's such a lovely building. And they're Irish, I have to say. Of all the Gaelcoileannas in Ireland, I've heard a lot. They're very good. So imagine if they were independent, how much better their Irish would be, because there's announcements made in English, so you ding dong, and again, no fault, like Leah said, no fault of their own. It's just what happened. They were splashed together, and it's a shame, and it's so frustrating. And a lot of Irish language stuff, it's mostly frustration. You're frustrated more than you're happy because it's always a fight to get this or to get that, and why can't they just say, yeah, okay? And it's so easy. You could just go in there for an afternoon and say, do this, and it'll be, or even everything should be bilingual, or as much as possible. They should follow like a Quebec model or a Wales model, and just everything should be. Your milk should be always. They make such a big thing. Oh, it's Seachtain na Gaeilge. Let's have bilingual thing. It should be like that all the time, so that people just see it and that they're. It's part of life,
But even you mentioning, the way that the revival of Welsh, the Welsh language, I mean, I feel like that example is used every time yourself or anyone is in.
We're jealous of the Welsh. We wish we had.
But Leah, is that frustrating? Well, I'm sure like that has been used as an example of how things can be done, and yet we're still using it as an example of how things can be done because things haven't been done here. And I find it strange because in this country we're quite fond of looking to other countries, and if they pioneer something first, then we'll go, well, could that work here? Sure, we'll try that. Why haven't we gone down that route?
It's just so frustrating. I've no idea. I mean, there's a clear pathway laid out for us. We don't have to come up with anything. It's just there. We can follow it. We know it's effective. And I think the buy-in from the Irish would be fantastic, because in recent years in social media, the level of Irish and the level of enthusiasm for Irish has just grown exponentially. So I don't know. It's so frustrating.
I mean, outside of an independent Gaelscoil, what practical steps could be taken in the short term, and I'll put this to both of you, to increase Gaelscoil provision in Clare?
So I do think first and foremost the Gaelscoileanna needs to have an expansion of some sort. Maybe not the one they wanted, but anything really just to cater for the demand that's there, because in coming years they might have to turn away students because of the lack of Seomra Ranga. And I think the Gaelscoil Donacaroo and Shannon, that's absolutely fantastic, and I'd say the figures will rise when that is done. That's going to be completed shortly. And I mean, the Gaelscoil in Moy and the Gaelscoil in Kilrush, they're all growing as well. So I do expect a rise in these figures, but I think Gaelscoil need to be given the expansion as well.
Is that what you think would be a good move short term, MacDara, or is there something else you would suggest?
And Clár Gaeilge, Inish Chum was a great initiative to get Irish into the town, so that when these kids leave the school, because one of the things about a Gaelscoil famously is once they step out that gate, Irish disappears. It's only when they're in the school. So if kids have a place to go and see Irish everywhere, it's not just a school subject. That's the difference between growing up in Gaeltacht. When I was a kid, I grew up, Irish was literally everywhere.
All
you go
around
to the shop,
you.
all around, everywhere. Whereas here in town, or anywhere in Ireland, you leave school and that's it. So they think there's a door that they close behind them when they leave the school. So, and to encourage parents to speak as much Irish at home, and grandparents and granduncles and grandaunts and everything to speak as much Irish as they can with the kids outside of school. But yeah, so
Okay.
And more stuff outside the school as well, that they can live it, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'd be livid that they can't live it.
I knew he was going to finish with something like that. He can't help himself. Right, before he comes up with any other humdingers or clangers, whichever word you prefer. What's the Irish for clanger?
Clanger.
Clanger.
You just put an Irish kind of accent on.
Yeah, exactly. Right, thanks to MacDara Conaola, the native Irish speaker from Inisheer and the Aran Island Gaeltacht and Irish language columnist, and the language planning officer with An Clár Gaeilge and Irish and cultural officer with Clare GA, Leah ní Thailtigh. Grumach agus slán go fáil to both of you. Thanks very much for joining us this morning.